Yes, audible now? All right, all right. Yes, I can see now the responses as well. So I feel I'm comfortably audible to you all. So, all right. So once again, good evening to all of you. Right to the session. This is practice session 3 for reading comprehension passages. We will be working on the same. Hi Shreya, Vaibhav, Harsh, Sakshi, Nimit, Parishi. All right, thank you so much. So, talking about the agenda for the lecture that we are going to have. So the topic is English, right? And in English, we are going to have a session on reading comprehension passages, right? The concept that you have been aware since childhood, right? Since your school days, of course, right? So what is the agenda for the lecture? You are going to have passage number 1. Some passages we are going to discuss here today. So passage number 1 that is going to span in 2 slides will have 5 questions to ask. Okay, so this passage, right, you will be reading the entire passage in 2 slides, and then the passage is going to ask you 5 questions in totality. Okay, then we are going to have another passage number 2. That 2 is going to have 2 slides, and it is going to ask you 4 questions in totality. And then passage number 3 spans in 3 slides, asks you 6 questions there in it. Okay, then we'll move to passage number 4 that is going to span again in 2 slides and is going to ask you 5 questions in total. Okay, so let's see how many passages will we be able to complete entirely in this session, right? Bare minimum we will be doing 3 passages, and if the things they go quite swiftly, if we maintain the alacrity of the session, then we are going to have the 4th passage as well with us. Okay, so yes, what do you say, guys? Shall we start? Cool. Reading the responses. That's why looking aside. Cool. Thank you so much. So showing you the very first passage. So how are we exactly going to conduct this particular session? I'll be showing you the passage first. Okay. You will be reading the passage, giving it a read, and post that read, you will be switched to another slide. Once the reading comprehension thing is done, then we will be moving to the questions. Okay. And then you will be attempting questions, right? Post that, I will show you the answer first, and then we will discuss if the things they don't go correct. Okay, if you have anything to ask, and if we need a discussion on the thing, so it will be elaborated. The questions will be elaborated, of course, right? But you will be given sufficient time to read first. Okay, so that's how we are gonna practice the same. Okay, all the very best to you guys, right? Let's move to the very first passage. So here we go with passage number 1 that spans in 2 slides, as I said, and asks you 5 questions thereafter. Okay, all the very best to you. Here we go. So there is some direction part that is missing, okay, that you are not able to read, but I believe you are already aware of that. Okay, so there is not going to harm as such, but if required, I'll switch off the video from my end so that you can read the entire stuff. So please give it a read. Thank you. Moving to the next slide. in 15 seconds from now. Hi, Nidhi. Good evening. All right. Second slide for you. So 30 more seconds to finish. All right. So we are moving to the questions now. So here we go with the very first question of the passage that asks you, what is the main purpose of the passage? Okay, so what is the idea behind writing this particular passage? Okay, so work on all the points, all the given options. We'll show and discuss with you guys soon. So coming up with different answers. Mostly people, they are juggling between the two choices. Cool. Showing you the correct answer here on the screen. It is, that's option number D, to emphasize on the lessons of the US that can help India fight air pollution. So some of you got confused with option number D, which says underscore. The main purpose of the passage is to underscore the strategies that US had devised against air pollution. Underscoring it means what? It is having a negative connotation. Okay, that means it did not work for them. It is not the agenda of the passage. In the very first paragraph, in the beginning, the author said very clearly that this is the example being cited to you of US or of Los Angeles that should be incorporated by India. So India, who actually needs to fight with air pollution very seriously and very importantly at the earliest, okay, needs to follow this particular example. Okay, so keeping that in mind, it is important that yes, the emphasis, the US wala point was nothing but merely an example here. So underscoring is negating it, making it negative. That's not going to be a correct one, right? So that's how C could be eliminated here. It has its limited scope, of course, right? Shall we move to the next question? Number 2. Cool. Thank you. Moving to the next question. So here we go. Number 2. Which of the following is not true according to the passage? Whenever you see this word not true, not false, cannot be inferred, right? Cannot be assumed, right? The author is unlikely to agree with. Whenever you come across such question types, make sure you apply the elimination method. Make sure that you eliminate options one by one, and the last remaining one is going to be your correct answer choice. So kindly attempt this one, please. So again, people are answering quite similar. Okay, I'm coming up to the discussion here. Now, here the point is, which of the following is not true according to the passage? Okay, the very first point says, A option, it says, the battle of the US against air pollution proves that their strategies had successfully led to the termination of the same. That means air pollution. Did it get terminated? Were they capable of terminating the air pollution entirely? I don't think so. So why not mark this particular option? Isn't it? It should be option number 1 only, because it is asking me something that is not true according to the passage, and this option, of course, is not true according to the passage. Moving to other points, right? Sorry. Economic benefits of clean air are not limited only to improved health and productivity. Yes, it did not limit itself to improved health and productivity alone. Rather, it actually had to do with a lot of other things as well. Okay, that means improvement in the area of crop and timber yields, benefiting farmers and foresters, less illness, lower medical costs, fewer premature deaths. You must have remembered that these all were to the benefits of this air, clean air. Okay, so of course, B cannot be marked as correct answer option because it is true according to the passage. Similarly, if we go for the C option, it says the US had been under the prolonged effect of air pollution. That is why they had to devise some way out to come out of the air pollution, or to curb this problem, this difficulty or bottleneck that they had, right, before their economic growth, right? And the D option says a scientific understanding of the causes of air pollution was the first step towards combating air pollution. Yes, because scientific evidence is definitely required. That is what that person too did. Hagen Smith, right? He too did the same thing. Okay, so that is really very important, keeping it in mind. Cool. Shall we proceed to the next one? Don't worry, Bharat. Ultimately, throughout the passage, it is the scientific thing that has been asserted and advocated by the author in the passage. Okay, so that way it is important. Anyways, moving to the next question. Here we go with the third one. So, which of the following would Higgins-Smith mostly recommend? Coming up to the answer, that's option number B. Enhance the quality of air emitted by cars, right? It was a very comfortable choice to reach, okay, because that is the experiment, that is the scientific thing he actually got into and came up as a solution to cope with this particular problem of air pollution in the state, right? So almost everyone went correct here in it. So I think, I believe we can move to the next question. That's the fourth one. Which of the following did Higgins-Smith's research refrain from asserting? That means what he did not assert exactly. Okay. Rishika Gupta, don't worry. Just wait for a while. We are about to move to the second passage. You can join us there from. All right. Hypothetical observations, clean air quality, importance of regulations, and technological advancement. Of course, the three options from B, C, and D, if we talk about, of course, they were the part of his research. As far as hypothetical observation is concerned, of course, that wasn't there because it was completely based on the scientific evidence. It was backed by scientific evidence, which, of course, is the opposite to hypothetical observations. Hence, is true because he actually refrained from asserting hypothetical observations to reach the solution to such a problem. Okay, though B, clean air quality is nothing but the result of his research. C, again, it is a part of his research, right? And technological advancement, of course, is the result too, right? So keeping these things in mind, of course, his research refrained himself from ascertaining hypothetical observations. Okay, because he actually believed and he worked on the scientific things, scientific evidences, what he believed in, and naturally the one who does so cannot be hypothetical during his research, right? Shall we proceed to the next one, the last from the passage here? Cool, thank you so much. Here we go. This is the last one. Make sure you read the question very carefully. Which of the following recommendations would not be advised for India in its fight against air pollution? So you need to come up with the not answer, right? Again, I'm coming up with different answers here. So I'm just coming up with the explanation. So it is asking you which of the following recommendations would not be advised for India in its fight against air pollution. So whatever that had been the part and parcel of this fight when Los Angeles was fighting against air pollution, those are to be taken into consideration. That's as simple as that. Okay, so very first option says develop national level legislation to enforce clean air initiatives. Second, find scientific evidences behind the causes of air pollution. I think this is something which is very important from Hagen Smith's point of view, right? Finding out the scientific evidences, right? Establish the economic benefits of air pollution. Okay, this has at all been talked? Has this at all been talked in the passage, in the entire passage, the benefits of the air pollution? Do you think so? Siddhi, Siddhi Chavan, do you think so that C part has at all been taken there in it? That seems to be a very good answer option. Of course, consistent monitoring of air quality is too very much important, right? So all these other options, they are nothing but the scientific and logical steps to be taken when you are fighting against air pollution. Even if one has not read the passage, can probably using common sense answer this particular question very comfortably, isn't it? Yes, that's what it is all about. Rishika Gupta, I did that. Of course, you have not read the passage. Keeping you in mind only, I said so. All right, so let's move to the second passage. Here we go. This second passage spans in 2 slides for you and then is going to ask you 4 questions, right? So giving you the time to read the passage. Proceeding to the next slide in 30 seconds from now. Prominence is importance. Next slide for you. In 15 seconds, moving to the questions. All right. So here we go with the very first question. To you on the screen, give the passage a suitable title. All right. So I believe it was simple to attempt, right? So the very first option A, the effects of intersectionality at workplace is the most appropriate answer that can be. Okay, because when we talk about option number B, it says what is intersectionality and why is it important? I think the second thing has not been answered. Okay, and number C says reflections in intersectionality. That could be too general to answer because it is not in general intersectionality that has been talked of. Rather, it is being talked of in the workplace or at the workplace, right? And option number D, that is intersectionality, a black feminist critique. I think that too would be quite specific to answer because it is not going that specific. Okay, it not only works, it not only deals with the black feminist critique alone. Okay, and intersectionality has even not been referred to or in context of black feminist critiques, right? So this is basically the reasoning behind. Okay, and A, of course, best fits in is the best choice to go for. Hope it is clear. Moving to the next one, number 7 for you. I hope it is clear, Minal, Arjun, and others who probably went wrong. Now here, the question is which of the following best describes intersectionality? Option 1 says it is the existence of domestic violence against women of color, particularly the immigrant ones. I think domestic violence is the key word that eliminates this choice, right? Moving to the second option, it says it is the complex and cumulative way different forms of discrimination like racism, sexism, and classism that overlap and affect people. Okay, this seems to be the correct answer choice, and most of you guys have answered the same only. Number C, it is the disregard shown to experiences of women of color who are subjected to domestic and sexual violence. Again, these last two terms, domestic and sexual violence, right, has not been the part of intersectionality in the passage, so could be eliminated safely. D option says it is the freedom of to be sexist, racist, homophobic, and xenophobic. Now, homophobic, xenophobic, white male supremacy, it's a violence. I think many words are there that are going to negate this choice, and safely we have B as the correct answer choice. So moving to the next question. Here we go. So what option is there that the author most likely to agree with? People spend a lot of time on what they know the boss cares about. We must consider affirmative action which benefits blacks and Hispanics but disadvantages whites and Asians. There is no such discrimination that has been talked of. We need leadership that truly cares about inclusion. That is what intersectionality, in other words, is all about. Yes, of course, C is the correct answer choice. Okay, and D option. Okay, we should create a culture that provides strong incentives for people to follow the norm, right? I think this is nowhere linked or supporting or bolstering the arguments being discussed here in the passage. Going against probably could be eliminated safely here. Okay, because the author is definitely going to agree with his or her own opinion here, right? Which is intersectionality, right? Inclusion, that means. Last question from this passage. What should be the style of passage according to you? Now, it is according to you. It is not according to the author. What do you think the passage style is all about? Is it abstract or argumentative, narrative, or the factual one? So most of you guys are juggling between option number C and D. Few are there with B also. So here, the correct answer is option number D only, that is factual. Okay, see, it cannot be a narrative one. So many people, they came up with the option of number C here. Okay, so C cannot be the correct answer choice, which is narrative, because narrative passage is the kind of a passage that deals with personal experiences of a person, of an individual, personal experiences of an individual, okay, along with some words using I over there, okay, which is not the part of it. It is nowhere being subjective, So this option could be eliminated safely. And option number B, some of you guys have talked of. So B is an argumentative one. I won't say that it is an argumentative one because there is no one-side discussion going on. You are taking the examples from the workplace, from the people, right? And you are not posing your own alone here, right? Make, but that is taken as an example by the author, but not the author herself or himself. That is why it cannot be said so. It is more of a description sort of thing, and descriptive and factual are under the similar category. Hope you get this now. Make Doshi. Shall we proceed? Cool, thank you. So this second passage is too done. We are moving to the third passage now, and this is the lengthiest passage of the lecture, right? So this is going to span in 3 slides and is going to ask maximum number of questions, that is 6 here. Okay, so we are proceeding to passage number 3. Here it is on your screen. Proceeding to the next slide in 30 seconds from now. So here we go. To the second paragraph. Second slide of the passage, I mean. Afrin, abstract means something that is intangible, that cannot be seen or felt, that is not materialistic, that is not earthly. Okay, talking of the beyond things, that is usually abstract. Yes, Devansh, correct. So this paragraph is mostly data driven, could probably be easier for some and difficult for others. Proceeding to the next slide in 15 seconds from now. The last slide of the passage. Rishabh Shukla, both of the types can be expected. Of course, the previous length passages, and of course, this one too. That's why we are practicing on both ways. Sorry. So moving to the questions very soon in 30 seconds from now. Moving to the questions now, the first one on your screen out of the 6 total you have. So which of the following is not a factor that affects humanity on a large scale? Human density, climate change, natural disasters, or relocation? Very quickly, people are answering D. A very few of you have marked B also, but that's really very few. And yes, D is the correct answer choice, relocation. Okay, that seems really absurd or ridiculous kind of an option. That is not, of course, going to affect here, okay, human life. Of course, other options, climate change, density, and natural disasters, it upsets human life. Moving to the next question, guys. Minal, you are saying, but climate change does not concern to the passage. Of course, it does, because climate change is one of the factors that is responsible for catering to such a calamity to occur. Moving to the next question. Don't worry, I will come to the previous question once. Right, kindly attempt this one first. That was an easy choice, I believe. Rebuilding and reconstruction after a natural disaster can be very expensive, and thus there is a need to insure against them. That's what has been discussed in the passage too. Okay, option number, other options, if we talk about, Rishika, you mentioned D for 11th. Okay, so it says the D option says the center allocates paltry amount to states reeling under disaster. Okay, so that is just an opinion, a one-sided opinion. Okay, so you were paltry amount. Vibhanshu stands for minimal one. Okay, okay, no problem. So once coming back to the previous question, people they had doubt here. Okay, so now it is saying which of the following is not a factor that affects humanity on a large scale during what time? All right, let's go from the perspective of the passage. It was dealing with disaster thing, right? It was dealing with calamities, right? So calamities, disasters, they are going to affect when there is a human density, it is going to affect more there on a large scale, right? When the climate change is there, the calamity, right, whatever that occurs, it is going to affect humanity on a large scale, right? Of course, natural disasters, you have witnessed many natural disasters, right, in the past decade, right, throughout the country at several places, right? And you have heard that humanity got affected on a large scale. But the point is, does relocation affect humanity on a large scale? Just in general, if you ask yourself, so would you believe in doing so, in accepting so that relocation comes in this pattern? Rishika, you are saying how come human density? Because human density stands for the situation where you are talking of the cities or places that are populated, overpopulated. Okay, and if some uh, calamity, some natural disaster occurs there, it is going to affect humanity on a large scale or not? Of course it affects, right? So naturally this is going to be one of the factors, right? Yeah. Moving to the next one. So which of the following words best replaces contentious? Do I need to go to the passage back for it? Okay, so some people, they feel I should go back to the passage, which is quite okay if we do so. So going back to the passage where the word was actually used, here we go. First paragraph on the screen, the last sentence. This isn't a guarantee, and the amount can be contentious depending on negotiations between the state and the center. Keep the sentence in mind. Going back to the question now. So what do you guys say now? The word negotiation helps you here the most, making debatable as the most close word to the one. Okay, unpredictable we cannot say, because since this is a discussion between state and center, right, on the expenses to be incurred, and of course the state is going to ask for the help for the funds to the center, and center in response is not only going to give you the amount of the fund, but probably will be negotiating on the same lines. And when it is being negotiated, of course the debate comes in, the debate originates and comes into picture. So yes, contentious was closest to the word debatable here rather than the other words. Cool, shall we proceed? Number 13 for you. Which of the following is a feature that is typical to India's disaster relief mechanism? So B comes up as the correct feature. The typical one, immediate relief and rehabilitation and rebuilding of infrastructure. That is what actually the disaster relief mechanism works on these lines only, right? Because this is the very first reaction of the center in the state, right? That is to raise some fund, help victims, volunteer time to clean up and rebuild. Okay, A is vacating the people from the affected zones and rebuilding the society. Okay, so this is not the typical feature of the disaster relief mechanism. Okay, because that is done even without, okay, rebuilding of infrastructure, okay, comes in there from the side of the government and from the side of the center and the state. As far as the first option is concerned, it is something that immediately, as a course of action, can be done by anyone, right? Exactly. So according to the passage, this is going to be the very first one. Okay, the option to be chosen one. Others, of course, can be the part and parcel of correct courses of action, but that is from our perspective or our point of view. As far as the answering of this question is concerned, we need to focus only from the perspective of the passage, which completely stresses on the second point, that is rehabilitation and rebuilding of infrastructure, which requires raising of funds, right? And that is what the stage or juncture where the center and the state comes into picture. Why not D? It is moving the victims to a safer area and allocating funds for them. Okay, moving the victims to a safer area is of course the immediate course of action, but that's not the relief mechanism how it works. You are talking of the broader term and the larger picture. Okay, that is what on immediate basis anybody would do, be it the state or center or an individual or anybody. Okay, so that is from our perspective, of course, fine. And as far as allocating funds for them is concerned, okay, so that is not the part of the disaster relief mechanism, right? On immediate basis that is to be done. Of course, that is done. Now, this is an important and a good one. What cannot be inferred from the passage here? Harshita, we are left with one question right now after this one. So the lecture is about to complete soon. Okay, so the scale of damage from any natural disasters can be aggravated by minimizing the protection gap. Okay, so this is something that is not inferred from the passage, because here we are actually dealing with that particular protection gap only to work on, right? Option number, other options when we talk about, so first says an insurance purchased on the government account will serve to plug the gap in reconstruction finance. Okay, so it is of course correct one, right, from this particular passage, because that is what the funding is being discussed all about. So center is going to help you in the same, right? Natural disasters have become more intense and more frequent, and growth of population has led to the increase in potential damage caused by any natural disaster, right? Of course, because it is something that talks about the impact of human population, right, of the on the from the natural disasters. Of course, that is something we can infer. Option D, the benefits when risks are transferred to insurers would be basic amenities without having to appeal for funds, right? Of course, that is what the situation where the basic necessities and amenities comes into picture, right, from the insurers, right? So this too can be inferred here. But option number C, the scale of damage from any natural disasters can be aggravated by minimizing protection gap. This is nowhere asserted in the passage, hence is something that cannot be inferred. Now again the similar question type, which of the following can be said to be not true according to the passage? Of course, we will be doing the last passage too. I just had a thought that it is the last passage. Don't worry, we will be doing the next one too. All right, so coming up with the correct answer, that's option number C. Most of you have said so. Okay, because had insurance industry had had this industry had sufficient capital, the discussion on center states funds would not be the part of the passage naturally, right? So could be very comfortably deduced, right? And Siddhi, you mentioned A to be correct one, right? Some other guys too have mentioned A as correct one. So A says minimizing the protection gap would enable a resilient society barring to face a natural hazard. So that is correct, of course, right? Because when you have the large protection gap, it means this reducing the gap between economic losses and available funding, right? So of course that is something which the passage has told us. So this is true according to the passage. Okay, though number C is actually not clear, beta. G. All right, moving to the last passage, number 4. It is going to span in 2 slides and going to ask you 5 questions in totality. So that's the first slide for you here on your screen. Moving in 15 seconds to the next slide. In 15 more seconds, moving to the questions. So here we go with the very first one. The most appropriate tone of the author is what? Don't worry, won't tell you the meanings before I discuss. So coming up to the answer. Option number B, mentioned by probably none, is the correct answer choice. Most of you guys went for objective, that is option number C. So could you please first of all tell me the difference between subjective and objective tone? No, beta, objective is not making objection. See, subjective is something wherein you have the first person format, wherein you have your own inclusion in the same. But when it comes to objective, that you are quite indifferently, right? Quite indifferently and in a disinterested manner, right? From the outside world, just talk about it, but do not become the part of it at all. Okay, so that is not a suggestion kind of thing or objection kind of thing. That's not so. Okay, so other way around it was actually. Okay, and so option number first, A, that is vitriolic. It means to talk about something that is filled with bitter sarcasm. I think that would be too extreme to say. Okay, C, of course, is the opposite to it, right? That means subjective. And D, that is belligerent, is hostile and aggressive. So option number A and D are extreme options, should not be taken. Okay, whereas option number C is the opposite to the tone actually used, and B is the correct one because the passage is actually dealing with the author's opinions, starting with I, and express her sarcasm through her own language. Okay, so that means she was included in the same. No, she was not aggressive to a great extent. She has not used the vocabulary of that kind wherein you can complain that the person is extremely aggressive or bitter. That is the reason A and D should be eliminated, because the language and the vocabulary used matters a lot, right? Yes, Meenal, but that does not amount to any option here. So should not be worried about this particular thing. Well, I know that the author is female because I have read her books too. So probably that is why I mentioned so. Next question, please. All right. So here the correct answer is option number C. Other options, they are not true as per the passage. Okay. So women have been portrayed here as gold diggers. Okay. Because of course it is in the context to women in India only, not all over the world, right? So that's why A should not be chosen as correct one. B says women are often compelled to hand over. The passage Yash says they are happy to hand over. The language used in the passage was they are happy to hand over the money management to their spouse. Okay, so they are not compelled. That's why option number B is untrue, wrong, and could not be taken as the right choice. Hope it is clear, Yash. And those who marked B as correct one, Meg Doshi, Ajay Kumar, you guys are clear about this one? Cool. So number 18 says here, what can be inferred from the passage? Option number A, many have said so. It was an easy question, right? So women are portrayed as gold diggers if they ask about what they will inherit or what is their share of business. What should we do? Our homes are not open to the ideas of us getting included in this part of the home at all, they ask. So these things, they evince the fact that women are reluctant to openly ask what is theirs, right? So of course A is a very simple answer to infer from, that it is the social conditioning that makes them hesitant to openly asking for what is theirs. Ishika, make you guys and some others have mentioned C to be the correct one. To secure their future, women need to take money into their hands and channelize it into something that gives a good turnover of profit. Right. Do you really think that it has been talked of? I think no. They have, the passage actually hasn't talked in this particular pattern any paragraph or any couple of lines even whatsoever. And he was a simple one. Nurturing a gold fixation is not a plausible solution to securing the future. It is a plausible one or not, that you cannot, of course, infer here. So D is out of choice. Coming to the next one, now the attitude towards women in general is of what? Aggressive, conformist, humiliating, or considerate? Yes, you are correct. B, of course, is the correct answer choice here, conformist. Absolutely, guys. This is what is going on, right? Absolutely. So considerate cannot be the correct answer choice here. Yes. You have just said so. So coming up to the last question for the day. Just a minute. Somebody said, why not humiliating? Humiliation has actually not been done here. So these people, these women have not been seen as humiliated, right, Weber? This is just the general trend in the orthodoxy or the conformist society that has been discussed and talked of. Getting it? Cool. That's fine. Moving to the next one and the last question of the day. With which of the following? Yes, of course, Meg, it was the concern that was given to you. But in general, attitude towards women was not being reflected from the same, right? So here we go with the last question. With which of the following author will most disagree with? Make sure you read the question well and answer them. Thank you. All right. So this last question for the day. Emancipation means to free, Parth, freedom, Dena, right? Emancipation of women. That means the freedom of women, okay? To make them free from the clutches, from the boundaries, from the foundations or something like that. So yes, which of the following will the author most disagree with? Right, the emancipation of women in the work front is of utmost significance. That's what, right? So to liberalize them is something that he would disagree with. Okay, why so? That's a very simple to answer here. Okay, talking about the other options. So this is something that is misleading to some extent. Okay, this is nothing but a red herring. Okay, so red herring is when you are talking of one particular problem, you are talking of or discussing one particular problem, right? So you are waylaying, you are going off track from the same to some other problem starting discussed. Needless, of course, understood. Cool, cool. Thank you. So this is all for today. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. So thank you, guys. Right, take care. Hope to see you guys soon there in some other lecture as well. All the very best. Take care. Bye bye.